now bring in our chief foreign editor, Rob Parsons, for more details on this story. Rob, great to see you. Anthony Blinken is expected to call for calm in his discussions with both the Israelis and the Palestinians. But will he be listened to by the new Israeli government, who is the most far right the country has seen in decades?
Yeah, this was always going to be a tough call for Anthony Blinken. You know, it's interesting just how many senior U.S. officials have been going to Israel in recent days. We've had Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor, William Burns, the CIA chief, and now Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State, which tells you something about just how concerned they are in the United States about the direction this new government in Israel is about to take. They are very worried. Do they think they can hold things in check? Probably not, but they will remember that the last time Netanyahu was in power with Barack Obama in power in the United States, the Democratic president, relations were extremely bad. Probably this is damage limitation more than anything else. They want to be able to at least try and control some of the agenda, but because of what's happened over the last few days, the expectations of this visit are probably even lower than they would have been otherwise. Already, as we saw in that report just now, the Israelis are moving to demolish houses of relatives of the attacker on the synagogue on Friday night in Jerusalem. And the signs are that this new administration, this new government is going to get tougher and tougher. We can expect to see more settlements on the West Bank, something the United States has called for Israel not to do. We're going to see looser rules of engagement for the Israeli Defense Force, something that the US government has asked them not to do. So the expectation will be low, but at the same time, Anthony Blinken will be going there hoping that he can at least exercise some sort of restraint on the Israeli leadership, pleading with them not to escalate at a time when things could get seriously out of hand. From the Israeli government's point of view, given the composition of the government, it's hard to see that they're going to be making very many concessions to Anthony Blinken. Already they're talking, for instance, about introducing changes to the Constitution to make it easier for the government to get control over judges in the judicial system in Israel. Again, something that the Americans asked them not to do. It creates a bad image of Israel as a country shifting away from democracy. So, the outlook for this visit doesn't look very positive.
He has his work cut out for him, clearly, Anthony Blinken. And this visit was a planned visit, one that, the Israelis were hoping would expand the Abraham Accords, which were struck with Donald Trump, of course, when he was president, potentially including Saudi Arabia. But Saudi Arabia says not so fast, only once the Palestinians have a state. What's his discussion with the Palestinians going to look like? Well,
I think nobody is expecting the Palestinians to get a state anytime soon. Anthony Blinken, the US administration, is still talking about a two-state solution, but in Israel, nobody is talking about a two-state solution at the moment. Yes, Anthony Blinken will be going to Ramallah to meet Mahmoud Abbas, the president of the Palestinian Authority. Does he expect much to come from it? Obviously not. He will certainly appeal, I think, to Mahmoud Abbas to think twice about his decision to end security cooperation with the Israeli authorities, which makes communication between the two sides even more difficult. But bearing in mind the lack of authority that the Palestinian Authority has with Palestinians, I don't think that he'll be expecting much to be achieved. The problem, I think, for anybody dealing through the Palestinian Authority is it really doesn't have very much standing anymore with ordinary Palestinians because of the corruption, because of the accusation that it's acting almost as Israel's policeman in the occupied West Bank. All these things have undermined the authority of the authority, and in particular with the clashes growing between Palestinian militants and the Israeli Defense Force over the last year alone. 200 Palestinians were killed in clashes with the IDF and settlers. That's the worst year in 16 years. And just this year alone, in January alone, 32 Palestinians killed. The outlook really does not look very good, and fears growing that there could be a third intifada. 61% of Palestinians think that's going to happen. 65% of Israeli Jews.
And just this past Thursday, there were reports, which Israel denied, of course, of tear gas being used at a hospital in Jenin that affected a pediatric ward. We'll see what happens in this meeting. Thank you very much for that, Rob. Rob Parsons there.